What's going on, you guys? Theo here with the big review, back yet again with another King of Fighters Allstar video, and as you can see, today is the day the new Boss Syndrome event has officially begun. We are going to break down everything in this update as best we can in today's video. We also have some major data mines that have dropped that are going to be shining some light on a potential new SS banner and more. So before we get into all that, guys, hit that like button and subscribe. So for the first time of logging in right now during the event, you're going to be greeted with this screen. We've seen this before. Basically what's going to happen is you're going to be given the selection of 3 different characters that you can choose from that will be the basis of your super mission, which we will break down momentarily. My opinion on this is you either go Shizuru or King. Now with Shizuru, she is going to be extremely good in time attack. However, you do need her epic quest finisher card, but in balance week she is really good for new players in time attack. With King, she is actually really good for the Mecha Gonitz Advent event, so she's really good for that, and honestly little else, to be completely honest. But you guys know who I'm going to choose. I'm going to choose King, which, you know, waifu for waifu. But when it comes to whoever you choose here, those are the 2 options, and that's kind of what you're looking at with those. So there's our generic FES memory for our BS characters, which is now confirmed. It will work for any BS character as a generic memory, which is phenomenal. We'll go ahead and collect our daily login streak rewards here and then get through all these pop-ups. Gonna have a few more pop-ups, all the pop-ups, just pop-ups everywhere. But all right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna talk about this stuff, we're gonna break all this stuff down. Hopefully you guys find it informative, and let's go ahead and jump into the Boss Syndrome update. First things first, we're going to go ahead and talk about the super mission. So as you can see here, this is going to be the super mission event for the character that you pick for the first time when you log in during this event. And a lot of this is just going to be kind of your general miscellaneous type of items. So you get a lot of capsules, both for Awakening XP as well as just for your statistical capsules. You're going to get some AS souls. You're going to get all sorts of different items here. So all welcome things. None of it is going to be game breaking. The biggest thing is these hammers here, I would assume, as far as rarity goes. The overall reward is going to be whatever the character that you chose was, their corresponding color is in the form of a gold border memory. So overall, that is going to be what you're seeing here. You also get some of those rainbow cores there. So yeah, guys, it's going to be kind of your general riffraff. It's not anything that is going to be too back-breaking, but definitely make sure that you get this stuff. Next up, we're going to go ahead and talk about the Rush event. Now, this Rush event is pretty much structured the same way that you would have other Rush events, and you may notice here that the Orochi event that they had promised us, which was the co-op event, is not listed here. The reason for that they did not give. However, they did change the date on it. It looks like we will be getting that event tomorrow. So don't fear that that isn't going to be added in at any point. It will be added in. It's just that it was delayed for whatever reason. Again, they did not give a reason as to why. My assumption on this topic is probably due to the fact that it being a co-op event, there might have been some sort of technical difficulties or something along the line, but we'll have to wait and see. I doubt they ever tell us, but it is what it is. Now, as far as this Rush event is concerned, it is going to, like I said, be structured the exact same way as you've come to expect with these. You will have the chance at those 50 rubies once per day for clearing this, and then you will notice that you are going to have all these different characters and cards that you can go ahead and stack onto a team in order to go ahead and boost your drops for your coins for your exchange shop, and we'll talk about the exchange shop next. But my recommendation on this stuff, guys, is always the same with these Rush dungeons. My opinion is you wait for the last day here for it to come up. So whenever this last one unlocks, then you go ahead and grind on that one because you'll get the most return for your AP. So as far as the Rush Dungeon exchange shop itself, as you'll see here, these are going to be your items. And the biggest thing that people are going to want to talk about is obviously going to be the BS Imprint Stone mystery boxes and what these new Imprint Stones do, because we do have a new volume of Imprint Stones with new effects that are going to be different from the originals. Now, those originals are still in this pool, and you can get them on a random chance. However, keep in mind they are random. Now, I do know what these new stones do when they're maxed out, so we'll talk about that as well, but that is something that you are going to want to keep in mind if you are trying to pinpoint, for instance, the attack stones, which are going to be the most popular and definitely the best in slot for these boss syndrome characters. Then good luck. It's all up to RNG, and you only have a shot at it twice, which is really unfortunate, especially when we get to the point where we talk about how they are handling the Volume 1 characters with their stones, which is probably the biggest and only major downside to this entire event. So as far as the stats on these Volume 2 stones, they are going to be the same. However, they are going to have different effects for this middle effect, and like I said, I do have these here maxed out that I can show you. Thanks to Steven for sending these over. But this circle stone is going to decrease enemies' defense by 20% for 4 seconds upon landing Boss Syndrome Fighter's active skill on a cooldown of 10 seconds. All three of these are going to end up being really good. You'll notice that these statistical buffs are actually very, very high. So overall, these new stones are really good. I'm not even going to bother comparing them to the old ones because I just don't believe in comparing every little detail in the game to other things, because I don't think it really bears discussion. But next up, on the next stone, you're going to have a decrease to the damage received by 30% for 5 seconds when a Boss Syndrome fighter is attacked on a cooldown of 15 seconds. So again, another really good stone. And then if we go to the hexagon stone here, and again, the stat buffs are going to be the same for the attack, defense, what have you, as the old stones. But this one here is going to increase active skill damage dealt by Boss Syndrome fighters by 10%. So overall, those are going to be your new stones. Pretty good overall. I'm pretty happy with them. Overall, these are going to be very good for these characters, which we will be breaking down those kits here momentarily once we get through the rest of this information. Now, as far as everything else going on in here, I'm just going to talk about the things that I would recommend you guys get. If you're a new player, those plus imprint stone mystery boxes are going to be very good, especially for those of you who are new, because you cannot get your hands on those R stones as easily. Bear in mind that these are going to be a mystery box, however, so you aren't going to be able to just go in and get whatever stone you want, which is really unfortunate considering there are very few of those that are going to give you a lot of longevity, and you'll probably replace most of those pretty quickly. As far as other things in here, the first big thing is going to be the rare enhancement hammers, in my opinion. Those are going to refresh daily, so you'll want to make sure you get those, because I feel like for those of you, especially who are new, those are going to be a big thing for you. And beyond that, really you can kind of, you know, the rest of this stuff, to be honest with you guys, is largely up to you. I mean, these hammers are going to be the biggest thing, but if you're somebody that struggles needing XP capsules for your awakening tiers, you can always go with those. I always recommend the plus capsule mystery boxes, because I know a lot of people, especially when they're new, may not have a whole lot of those or have readily access available to those in a large way, and those are a quick, easy way to buff your characters and get their stats higher. So it's really up to you guys as far as the rest of this stuff. The biggest thing that I would recommend is just making sure that you are getting the hammers daily, and beyond that, it's up to you, because like I said, these guys here are going to be very good, especially if, again, for new players. For us veterans, we've already got a big stash, or we have access to other modes and can clear other modes where we can get these a lot more easily. So for those of us like are in that position, may not be the best thing in the world, but we need to spend these coins on something, right? So it is what it is. Once you get the Boss Syndrome stones, it's really just going to run dry. So otherwise, outside of that, anything else in here, I mean, really, the Element Gold memory selection box to me is a meme. I mean, you can go for it if you want it. I really don't care. I mean, it's 7,000 coin though, so yeah, it's up to you guys. I don't think any of the rest of this stuff is that big of a deal. So that is going to be your rush dungeon. Now let's talk about the stone situation. So we had already talked about this in yesterday's video, and we had broken down what this does and how this works, but basically each time you awaken one of the new Boss Syndrome characters, being Krizalid or Geese, you are going to have the ability to pick a stone selection box for them. Then once they get to A4, you'll be able to get some elite enhancement hammers, and then at A5 you'll get reimbursed 1,000 rubies. Overall, what really sucks here, and we'll talk about this more when we break down the characters, is the fact that the Volume 1 characters do not have this in here again like they did originally, and that is going to be something that really does suck and does drive down the value of that banner a little bit, but they're still really good. But we'll go ahead and start talking about the characters now that we're on the topic. So I do want to go ahead and put a bit of a disclaimer here at the beginning before we get into this, because the number one question that I have been asked for a week now ever since this banner was announced was which banner you guys should be going for, and I have not answered that question because, to be honest, I can't answer that question until I know what these characters do. So now that we know what these characters do, my advice to you guys on this topic is your best bet is to wait for us YouTubers to spend our own rubies and test these things before you make a final decision. However, if you need an answer today as of right this moment, there are two major things to take into account. One, with the previous Boss Syndrome banner, meaning Rugal and Orochi, you cannot get their stones for free, and while that does not break them, that does hurt them quite a bit. So it's going to be a situation where their performance that you've seen me and other YouTubers put on in footage is probably going to see a dip from that. However, that is not something I have tested at length, nor have I tested in general. So it's a situation where, yes, our stones still exist. So really, to be honest with you guys, both of these characters are still phenomenal and amazing, and we do not know one way or the other, and this is the other big thing to take into account, if they're ever going to get rerun after this again. So overall, spend at your own risk. It's one of those situations where I would honestly say whoever's your favorite is your favorite, go for them. But let's go ahead and talk about Krizalid. So first and foremost, guys, for those of us who were worried about his yellow balance typing, do not worry about it, because the fact that his leadership skill increases boss fighters' attack by 60% and decreases their HP by 5% makes him extremely powerful. Boss Syndrome Krizalid's leadership skill is going to go a huge way in things like Guild Raid, where he is actually going to be extremely strong because he has a mixed kit that actually takes into account darkness and starlight. So the fact that this character has both of those dots as something that he can utilize in his kit, maybe not to their fullest extent necessarily, but at the same time, this is going to be a character that is going to be extremely powerful in my opinion. Overall, his kit is looking very, very nice, and the fact that that leadership skill is going to be good for other boss characters such as Lady Zero, and for Orochiori, and Mr. Karate, and all these other characters with that tag makes him very valuable. Now, as far as his cores go, he has a 30% power charge rate increase, which is very, very good. Overall, I'm very happy with that. He also has an 8% grab skill attack damage increase, which normally I wouldn't point out, but when we get into his skills, that is going to be a major talking point. Now, as far as anything else here, he is going to have his own exclusive cores here that we'll talk about. So first and foremost, he has Cutting Edge. That's going to deal additional damage equal to 80% of attack to all enemies when attacking targets affected by darkness or starlight, with a PvP exclusive of when he's attacked. He disables the attacker's active skills for 3 seconds on a cooldown of 20 seconds. So overall, a very nice core. Next up, he is going to have Owner of .70599, which has a chance to reset Desperate Moments cooldown upon landing End of Eden combo, and increases the target's damage received by 20% for 7 seconds on a cooldown of 18 seconds. And then he has the Boss Syndrome exclusive core for the Volume 2 characters, which is different from the Volume 1. This one is going to decrease all enemies' power by 1% every 0.3 seconds while in guard stance, with a PvP exclusive of gaining super armor for 2 seconds when accumulated attack received, guard included, reaches 5 times on a cooldown of 20 seconds. So overall, I'm not as big a fan of this new exclusive core as I was with the original one. I do think it is a bit of a step down. It's really only going to come up in PvP, so for PvE it's kind of irrelevant, not necessarily anything to take into account with it, but the fact that he has that reset is very nice, and the overall kit for this character is pretty clean, I would say. His cores are going to be things that are largely going to be really just centered around these exclusive cores and that very generous 30% power charge rate increase. But this character, being the fact again that he is going to be dabbling in darkness and starlight, this is going to make this character very sought after for Guild Raid in general, and I do feel like that is where a lot of people are going to get a ton of PvE value out of this character. irregardless of the fact that when we talk about these skills, he is going to have quite a bit of grabs involved with what his kit is trying to do, which I know isn't necessarily always going to be the most popular thing in the world, especially for PvE, because in PvE a lot of the time grab skills can be a mixed bag and a double-edged sword, because you can't necessarily grab a lot of bosses. However, in things like Guild Raid, like I said, being that he is able to help you out with both Expert and Lunatic, I do think that this character is very well built for that mode. So let's go ahead and talk about the skills. First up, we have his S1, which is Desperate Moment. He's going to have Hyper Armor for 3 seconds and increased penetration by 1000 for 7 seconds with an interrupt, so very, very nice. Next up, he has End of Eden combo. That's going to decrease damage received by 80% for 3 seconds, and he deals radiant damage for 7 seconds upon landing a hit, which means that the target receives starlight damage equal to 35% of attack every 1 second, and increases damage received by 15%. So there's the starlight application with the radiant damage. Very, very interesting that this character would have starlight. Some people had theorized about it. I didn't think that it made a whole lot of sense. Burn made more sense to me, but hey, here we are. He has it, and it looks really, really good on his kit. Next up, on his S3, he has Typhoon Rage. This is going to increase attack by 30% for 7 seconds, and then he is also going to apply Blackout for 7 seconds to the target upon landing a skill. For those of you who missed my dot guide and don't know what Blackout is, it's the upgrade over Darkness, and it is going to deal darkness damage equal to 30% of attack every 1 second, while also decreasing power by 2%. This is very, very good. He's also going to disable the target's roll for 3 seconds upon landing a successful skill. So overall, with this character, his kit is looking very, very good, and so I'm very happy with him. His kit is very interesting, being that it is mixing darkness and starlight, and we'll preview the skills here momentarily as well. But the one thing worth noting again, he is very much so based around grabs, which I know a lot of times, again, is not going to be the best thing in the world for PvE. We'll have to wait and see. This is still extremely early. These characters have only been out for like an hour at this point, so nobody has even had a chance to test any of this stuff. So we'll go ahead and we will do that today. We'll go ahead and try and make sure that we can get that information and try and get a hold of some people that have these characters. I will be summoning later, as I've mentioned, but overall, very happy with this character. He looks awesome. Fans of Krizalid should be very happy with him. I think that if you do go for him, you are going to be very happy with the results overall, because I do think that this is going to be a character that is going to help you out a lot if you're somebody who struggles in both Guild Raid Expert mode and in Lunatic mode, because I know there are a lot of people out there who have issues with that, especially as it pertains to getting a top flight quality Starlight character. And even though I don't think that he's at all going to be any sort of replacement for a character like Athena, that's definitely not going to be the case. He is going to be a definite boon to your account. However, when it comes to these skill animations, they are fairly quick, although I would say that they are a little bit on the longer side for the most part, and in PvE you typically want really, really quick skills. So they're not necessarily on the long end, but they're not necessarily on the shorter end either, so kind of in between. But overall, that is a big, big nitpick, and I like this character a lot. I think that if you are a fan of him, you should be very happy. I think you're completely safe going for him. He is going to be a wise investment. And Boss Syndrome characters in general, I know I gave you guys that disclaimer, but Boss Syndrome characters in general are just really, really powerful. So you really can't go wrong either way. So that is going to be Krizalid. Next up, we are going to go ahead and we are going to talk about Nightmare Geese. I'm going to try and temper all of my bias and give you guys my straight opinions on this guy. So let's go ahead and jump into this kit. So first up, Geese, as we know, is a green attack, and his leadership skill is going to increase attack type fighters' attack by 45% and their power charge by 20%. This is a phenomenal leadership skill. Both of these characters have great leadership skills, guys. I mean, these leadership skills you can use in almost anything. This guy here, being that he is increasing attack type fighters attack by 45% and their power charge rate by 20%, some of the best characters in the game are attack types. So him alone with that leadership skill is going to be enormous. And when we start to get into his kit, there are a few question marks that I am not sure about, particularly as it pertains to one thing in his cores that we're going to talk about. But just at face value, looking at him, these two things alone, his typing and his leadership skill, are phenomenal. Now, as far as his core effects, he is going to have that same 30% power charge rate increase. Very, very good. And then you're going to notice he is going to have increases to attack, crit rate, so on and so forth. So this is a character very much so predicated upon just doing damage, and you will see that as a theme throughout his kit. So overall, with his kind of normal generic cores, they're pretty good overall, I would say. Now, he is going to have his own exclusive cores that we'll talk about here, and this is where we start to get into kind of the question marks. So he has, on Leader of the Howard Connection, 40% chance to apply fear to the target for 3 seconds upon landing an active skill on a cooldown of 10 seconds, and he increases his active skill damage by 50% when attacking enemies affected by shock or darkness. So that first thing there with fear, we have no idea at this point what it is. It is still too early to know. I'm hearing that it might be a CC effect, but I'm not sure. Overall, we'll just have to wait and see what that is, but this is a really good core overall. And then on his final core, he's going to have Southtown's Nightmare with a 50% chance to reset blast active skill cooldowns upon landing Jaken on a cooldown of 20 seconds. And then, of course, the exclusive boss syndrome cores that we've already talked about. So he is going to have a 50% chance to reset his blast active skill cooldowns upon landing the Jaken there. That cooldown is on 20 seconds. That's a really nice core, and we'll take a look at the skills next and kind of go over why that'll be important for his kit. But this character, you can already tell, is not trying to do anything super flashy. This is going to be the type of character that is really just there to do good damage over time and just to be kind of your DPS overall. He isn't going to have anywhere near the more involved kit that a Krizalid might have, where he has a very interesting kind of mixed bag of things that are all very good. This character is much more straightforward than that. So all that being said, those are going to be the cores. Next up, we're going to talk about the skills. So on his S1, which is going to be Ripuken, he's going to decrease damage received by 75% for 4 seconds and drop lightning on the target upon a successful attack. This increases active skill cooldowns by 2 seconds for the opponent and deals shock damage to them equal to 30% of attack every 1 second for 7 seconds. For those of you who missed my dot guide yet again, the lightning effect is one of the best in the game for these upgraded dots. So overall, the fact that he has that is very, very, very good. So for those of you who have not been affected by that by a character such as maybe Lady Chang in PvP, then you don't want to know what it feels like. It is quite the devastating dot. So next up on his S2, which is Jaken, which we've talked about, he is going to gain hyper armor for 3 seconds with a 70% chance to ignore the target's guard upon landing a successful attack. This can be used while being attacked, so it is an interrupt. So very good that he has that interrupt there. It is going to be a strike skill. So you'll see that he is going to have 2 overall blast skills and a strike skill. That is where that reset on those cooldowns will come in. Now next up on double Shipuken EX, he's going to increase attack by 30% for 7 seconds and apply blackout for 7 seconds to the target upon landing a skill. Now this is going to deal darkness damage equal to 30% of attack every 1 second and decrease their power by 2%. Overall, very, very good skills. Again, very straightforward character. There's nothing here that should blindside anybody or surprise anybody. We figured he was going to be a straight DPS machine even before we got the typing as an attack type that kind of gave that away entirely. But very good. Now finally, on his core finisher, he does have an effect. Unlike Krizalid, he is going to increase target's damage received by 20% for 10 seconds upon landing a skill. So he is going to have further damage ramp after using Raging Storm of Nightmare. Overall, these are going to be a very, very nice effect for a finisher. So let's go ahead and take a look at the skills. His skills are very quick, so that is something that is going to help him out quite a bit. Very, very nice. They're very, again, straightforward. This is a character that is not anything flashy. He's not anything that is going to surprise you. He is just a straightforward berserker type character. But I do like the animations on all of his skills. They're very quick. They're very clean. He is straight and to the point. That finisher with that Raging Storm has a little bit of a different coloration to it. Very cool looking. And then if you get into the fact that he is going to have that effect on there as well, that is only going to help his case. Now, of course, he does have a new finisher as well, which we've already talked about a little bit in yesterday's video, but we'll go ahead and show off that animation now that we know what it is. But I do overall like his skill animations. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the new finisher, which is going to be Rashomon EX. So he's going to start out with Raging Storm, and then he's going to go ahead and he is going to finish it off with this attack here. So overall, it's going to be kind of in the middle of the road as far as animation length and time, but overall, definitely not on the shortest side that I've seen. So overall, guys, I really like both of these characters quite a bit. I'm very happy with both of these characters. I think that you are safe to pull on these characters. It's definitely not going to hurt your account any to do so. When it comes to the debate on which banner is better, to be honest with you guys, I think it's one of those things where you can't go wrong either way. It really just comes down to your preference and what you're trying to go for. I do not feel comfortable in getting into that topic as much because I have so much experience with these two, and I have no experience with these new ones, obviously. So I would prefer to wait and see, because it'd be impossible for me to give you an unbiased opinion that wouldn't be slanted to these two older versions of Boss Syndrome characters, just because I have more experience with them. But I can tell you that if you're a fan of any of these four characters that are currently available, pull for them. All four of them are going to be phenomenal. I think that, in summary, Krizalid is going to be a wonderful guild raid character for both Expert and for Lunatic. I think that Geese is going to be very good for Expert, and probably for a lot of just general PvE content, which you can probably say for Krizalid as well. Unfortunately with him, he is going to be predicated upon grab skills, so he may lose a little bit of versatility across all modes due to that. But even then, I don't know that that is necessarily going to break him down too much in a lot of those different modes, like when you're talking like your Immortals and things like that, just based around the fact that he is a Boss Syndrome character and he does have wonderful skills. So that is going to be that, guys. The next thing that we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at the cards and break those down. So let's go ahead and start it off. And we did know what these cards looked like from that trailer yesterday, but we didn't know what their effects were going to be, so let's start out with the set. So first and foremost, this art, for a Fatal Fury fan like myself, amazing. Now, as far as the overall effects of these cards, it's going to increase attack by 7% for each card, so 21% total. Very standard as far as these types of cards are concerned. Now, really what is going to make or break it is going to be the set bonus, and that is going to increase attack by 30% with a 30% chance to increase the target's damage received by 10% for 8 seconds upon landing an active skill on a cooldown of 20 seconds, with a PvP exclusive of when the boss fighter is attacked, it disables the attacker's strike active skills for 3 seconds on a cooldown of 30 seconds. So this is overall a pretty good set, you guys. I don't know that it is necessarily going to be better than what we already have. Like, for instance, the first thing that comes to mind as far as what this card set would probably be decent in is going to be things like Guild Raid and Immortals. I think that in Immortals it might have the most value. In Guild Raid it'd be tough because you're competing with the Serena set, and therefore, being that the Serena set is involved, it is going to be very tough for the set to keep up. That 30% chance to increase the target's damage received by 10% is nice. That increase of attack by 13% is pretty standard. I think that overall, this card set is going to be pretty much on par or around. I don't know that it's necessarily better than the Orochi set, to be honest. I don't even think it's necessarily worth comparing the two because they're completely different. I think that the biggest thing you would consider this card set for, like I said, would be Guild Raid or Immortals, and in either of those scenarios, it's going to be a situation more so where you're going to need to do some testing, because I think that there's more value in Immortals with this card set versus Guild Raid based on Serena set's existence, but we'll have to wait and see. I have a hard time believing I'll eventually get it, but hey, you know, maybe I'll get lucky. We'll see. So as far as this option card is concerned, this is going to be very similar to the Rugal option card that we got with the original Boss Syndrome run. It is going to have cooldown reduction of 1.2 seconds with an increase to attack by 5%. And then as far as the special effect goes, it has a 50% chance to increase attack by 13% for 5 seconds upon landing a blast skill. So this is going to be very, very situational as far as what characters you'll want to use it on. However, it is going to be extremely powerful on those characters. So if a character is going to be predicated upon blast actives, then this is going to be a very nice slot option for you. So first type of characters that come to mind for me, for instance, are going to be characters such as Merlin. So overall, I think that this is going to be a really good option card. I think it's pretty much on par with that Rugal card as far as its effectiveness is going to be concerned. That card that also has the same kind of limitations as this one in the capacity that it is going to only be based around a specific type of attack, which we're starting to see more and more of. So overall, guys, I think this is a really, really good option card, and I do recommend it, but I don't think it'll make or break you. Now, as far as anything else in here, there is a little bit to talk about, because these finishers, these 3 PG finishers for both of these Boss Syndrome characters do have effects. This Krizalid one is going to increase his penetration by 700 for 10 seconds when using Lightning Disaster. So overall, a very good effect to have. It's not necessarily the biggest amount in the world, but 700 is nothing to sneeze at. Again, for those of you who are unaware of what penetration is, it's basically defense shred, for lack of a better term. So that's what you're looking at there. But very nice that it has it on there. We're starting to see more and more of these effects on these finishers. And then finally, on Rashomon EX, Geese is going to increase critical rate by 10% for 10 seconds when he lands this. So basically, he's increasing his damage even more. So this Geese is just, again, nothing flashy, just a straight up damage monster, and that increase to his critical rate by 10% is very, very nice, and it has a generous 10 seconds on it. So overall, I am very happy with what I'm seeing with these effects on these finishers, and overall, I'm very happy with these card banners as a whole. So that is going to be the card banners, you guys. Overall, do I think that they are any better or any worse than the original card banner? Well, not necessarily. I think that both of these card banners are very, very powerful and very good. It just comes down to what you're going for, although I would say that my preference is probably going to lean more so toward that first banner, just because I do like that Orochi set. But then again, it could be biased just based solely upon the fact that I do not have my hands on these new ones yet. So speaking of getting my hands on this new stuff, there will be a YouTuber live stream on Saturday where we will be pulling for these characters, and that is going to be something I will be doing over on Gunny's channel yet again, defending my title from the 7 Deadly Sins pull session that we did, where I was actually able to win one. So it was pretty nice, but this is going to be the one that I care about the most as it pertains to that kind of thing. But overall, if you guys want to see me pull, I will definitely be doing a pull video tomorrow that I will be doing, but I'm going to be holding back just a tad so that I can pull on Saturday. So next up, before we move on to the Datamines that I want to talk about, I do want to go ahead and briefly talk about some of these in-game packages. So first up, and these are going to be largely the same as what we've seen in the past, but a lot of my opinions are going to just be the same as they always are on packages like these. But this one here is going to give you a token for a multi for the cards and for the fighters for the new Boss Syndrome volume. So overall, it's going to be for you minnows, and I do think that it is worth it if you are a minnow. However, I do feel as though if you are a minnow or a dolphin, that you might almost just be better off at that point getting this one. Because for the extra 15 bucks, not only are you doubling up and getting 2 for each one of those banners for the multis, but you're also getting 800 rubies and 100 skip tickets. And after having that Akane dice game recently, I think that we could all use some extra skip tickets. So if you're somebody looking to spend a little bit, this is not a bad package. I always find these to be of good value, and I would recommend it overall for people who are on the dolphin side. Now, next up, we're going to get into the whale package. This one is always worth it for whales, so if you're a whale, this is never going to not be worth it as far as value is concerned. The value proposition of having 16 total multis, 8 for the fighters, 8 for the cards, then you get that Element FES memory mystery box and that 5 million gold. Overall, very, very stacked package. I do think that if these are some of your favorite characters, or you're just really hyped for these characters in general, this is probably going to be something you'll want to look into. As far as the rest of these, I don't really recommend them. I know some people have issues as far as awakening capsules and things like that, and I do recommend plus capsules a lot of the time, but even then with this package, for 10 bucks, I really don't think it's worth it. Even the 400 paid rubies, it's just not enough. I think that you should just skip this wholesale. As far as this other one here, this one here is going to be slightly similar but a little bit upgraded, so you'll be able to get different XP capsules here and an extra 400 rubies from the last one. You'll be able to get 150 plus capsule selection box, but overall, I really don't think that you go for these. I think that these are ones that you ignore. I think if you're really looking to spend anything, then you either just go, if you're the whales, go for the $80 package, and if you're a dolphin, you go for the $25. This Elite Enhancement Hammer package, I wouldn't recommend either. I know in the past I've recommended these types of packages, but they continue to mess around with the numbers as far as how many hammers you get with these, and this one seems to be on the lower end, so honestly I wouldn't even recommend this one. I would say just stick with those other things that we just talked about and you'll be fine. So overall, that's pretty much my opinion on all this stuff, guys. I'm pretty sure that I got everything in this update, so let me know in the comments section if there's anything I missed, and I can go ahead and go over it in another video. But now we're going to go ahead and move away from the update. Good luck on your summons. Let's talk about these data mines, because this is some big news, guys. Now, there are going to be several talking points here, so we're going to get the littler stuff out of the way first. So as you can see here, we are looking at what appears to be a new Epic Advent dungeon. So kind of like we have with Mechagonets and Shizuru, we might be getting a False Ordeal Sisio event, so it's looking like that is going to be something that is going to be added in here soon. I would assume with the lament of the other stuff we're about to talk about in these data mines, but as you can see here, you'll be able to farm red epic crystals, which probably means there's going to be a new card set associated with this as well. We'll have to wait and see, but that is what we have. Now, there are more assets here for those new stones that we've known about for a while that are going to be specific to specific types of attacks. So as you can see here, there are going to be some shop items, it looks like. Now, next up, we have what appears to be the characters that are selectable for a new super mission, kind of like we have going on right now. As you can see, it is going to be based on King of Fighters 99 from what it appears here. And we have K, Maxima, and Whip. So you'll be able to choose from those 3 characters, it looks like. Now, the big news about all of this, and this is all stuff you should take with a pinch of salt, first and foremost here, as you can see, special signature shop available banner. Now, as you can see, this is going to be a new Iori asset, so there is the potential that we might be seeing Iori as an SS character in the future. However, as you can tell, this says special signature shop available, meaning that there is a chance that we will be getting a special signature shop that could potentially have the SS memories that are the generic memories in it. We do not have any confirmation on this whatsoever, so again, a huge pinch of salt, but there is the possibility of this indicating who our next 2 SS characters will be, especially with the next asset that we are about to talk about. However, I do want to make sure that I am clear here. There is no confirmation that any of this stuff will ever be added into the game anyway. As we know, there are a ton of data mines that have been in the game for over a year now, and those assets have never been released or used. So there is the potential that this stuff might not ever come to fruition, but if you are a fan of either of these characters, there is that potential there, and be happy that you at least have more potential than I do of an SS King at this point. But this is going to be the other asset. This is a Kyo asset that we have not seen before, so he is paired with that Iori from that previous banner I just showed you guys. This appears to be for some sort of rush dungeon. So yeah, guys, there is the potential, like I said, of seeing these characters added in as SS characters. For those of you who are King of Fighters proper fans, then you will know the history between these two characters. It would make sense if they decide they want to go this route and have these two be on the same SS banner. Again, we'll have to wait and see if any of this stuff ever happens, but that is going to be the Datamine, guys. That's today's video. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button and subscribe. It's 3 a.m. I have other stuff I got to get done. I will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.